You're listening to The Conversation with Model Mind AI, a weekly check-in with Angela Schultz and Loren Horsager on how to lead through change, stay curious, and get AI ready.
Welcome back to The Conversation. I'm Angela Schultz here with Loren Horsager from Model Mind AI. Today we're tackling a decision every leader faces. Do I buy business tools or do I build them? And with AI, that question is shifting. Leaders are asking whether they still need to pay for big box platforms or if AI can now help them create lighter, customized versions of the tools that they already rely on.
Exactly. When I'm out speaking and talking to business leaders, this is my number one question I get asked right now, is should I be buying or should I be building? And it's an interesting question because part of, I think, the problem comes that a lot of business people are getting approached with product after product after product, and there's so many new products out there. What do I really need in my suite of tools to be able to do AI stuff, but also everything else that we do in our business? So I think this is an interesting solution, an interesting question, and we're going to look at the different options on where it makes sense to approach this from a buy versus build perspective today. And so, yeah, welcome to the conversation, and it's going to be a fun one.
Good. So today, with Lauren's help, we're going to break down when buying still makes sense, but when building with AI can be smarter, and how each choice impacts not just efficiency, but as always, we like to include humans in our conversation. So how people are using these tools every day as well.
Fantastic. So I think let's start by just thinking about like what's changed, right? Why is this even a conversation? So over the past, 40 years, probably realistically, um, there were situations where you had to build your own software as a business leader, but that was for really, really custom solutions generally, right? And something very industry specific, very company specific. And so you really tried to avoid that. And then especially as we got to SaaS products, it was more easier and easier to find usually an industry specific solution for whatever you're looking for, whether it's your ERP or CRM, your marketing tools, project management, whatever it was you needed to do, there was a pretty good solution. Now, the question is, was it exactly the right solution? And the answer is probably never 100%, right? But now we have this opportunity to actually build software so quickly. It's one of the things that AI has really changed is the capability of a relatively young development person and team can actually build a lot of software very quickly. As an example, I have a friend of mine who he is working on a design tool for designers. He's a fantastic designer. And he's actually spent the summer working with all these AI tools to build his own product that he's taking to market. And it's just been an interesting process. He has no development background whatsoever. And so it's an interesting thing that we can actually be building pretty complex solutions. Take some time and effort. It takes a human involved in this process, but the AI tools just make it so easy, so cost effective. There's lots of times now when it's actually makes more sense to build your own products for certain things than it is to buy. Now, that's not always the case, and we're going to walk through some scenarios today where it makes sense and where it doesn't make sense. There's lots of cases where you still want to go buy the best of tool for your situation. Um, and you just have to keep in mind that if you're doing that, there's also a cost to implementing and there's ongoing costs and all that. So you can truly weigh these against what the opportunity is using AI to build your solution versus doing that. And we're not really promoting one or the other. The solution is what is the best solution for your business for whatever the task is you're trying to do, right? So
Yeah, I like that. It's about building awareness about what's possible, not necessarily advice on do this, not that, right? We're just showing what is capable with AI now. So let's start with buying. When is it worth the investment to purchase an established tool? Like buying an off-the-shelf tool can still be a smart move. So enterprise CRMs, Salesforce, HubSpot, those types of things. For companies with a complex needs or strict regulatory requirements, buying still ensures some stability. So thoughts on buying best case scenario.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. So anything that's complex and is really across your business in some way, like I would say your CRM really impacts a broad base of your business ultimately. And so going out to a Salesforce or a HubSpot or whatever tool you're going to use for that actually makes a lot of sense. And you already have it in place probably as well, right? So
Mm.
we definitely don't recommend in almost in any situation that you're going to go build something or unless you actually need to change systems for some reason, right? So if you're
Mhm.
looking to change systems, then this becomes a question. But if you're not, don't replace what you have, because part of what we're trying to get out of these systems too is our AI integration into it, right? So, but most of these products that are out there already have, or there already are, or they're in the process of adding AI integration into all these products. So you go to your CRM platforms, they're all adding AI capabilities that you can use in their platforms. There's no point in, that you think, hey, they're behind this a little bit. Well, maybe we need to build our own. Absolutely not. Like that's a pretty easy question, right? The other
Mhm.
area where you're almost never ever going to build out is like an ERP system, right? Your accounting and all that. You're not going to build your own solution for that. Where you might build your own solution is a lot of the integrations between these processes. So you might build out not only integrations, but potentially interfaces to those integrations where people can go use that tool that's customized,
Mhm.
because that's probably where the industry and your business specific logic resides that is different from what the ERP tool puts out, right? So let's say you have
Mhm.
QuickBooks as your accounting solution. Well, if I want to build something on top of that for a very specific reporting solution, and integrate with my project management solution, well, I can build a tool in front of that that basically points to both of them, and my project managers can go in and create and manage this without having to go into QuickBooks and manage stuff, without having to go in the project management tool and manage it. So we can do this through workflows and integrations that way, but we can also build out our own tools kind of as the glue between these. And that's
Mhm.
actually quite easy to do because we're going to leverage a lot of the same processes. We think about AI with workflows. We're going to
Mhm.
leverage a lot of those same processes. So that's kind of some of the things that you probably will not build, right? But now
Yeah.
if we think about where, or yeah, you would only buy, what are some of the other cases? Well, there's a lot of smaller case, like very industry specific situations where there's a product for that in the industry, and maybe it's a great product and you should be looking at buying it, right? But there's lots of cases where those products, it's like, man, this is a great fit for this industry, but we're a little bit different. How do I do this? That's something I would consider the build option on possibly, because you kind of have a framework of like what you want to happen, but it doesn't exist. And there's
Mhm.
lots of cases like that. And maybe you can make it exist by customizing a product that's out there. A lot of these small industry specific products are very difficult to customize a lot of times. So it's just another option to think, hey, instead of customizing, can I just go build the right solution that's going to do exactly what we need to do for our industry?
Yeah. Do you think there's any benefit to the customization of a product that you purchase in the regard to the people using it? So oftentimes when you start a new project or new product, roll out a new tool, there's a lot of frustration and hesitation from the employees. But I feel like when you actually make these personalizations or build outs, it creates this momentum within the company, and maybe you get more buy-in from the employees because they feel like they have a voice of how to make the product even better. Do you think there's an advantage there for changing the culture and the atmosphere around the tool?
I think there isn't both ways though. So whether you're buying or building, I think there's an opportunity there, because one of the things that
Mm.
gets left off of building products a lot of times is training, where a lot of times that's part, if a company says, hey, you're going to roll out Salesforce, here's how we recommend training, and they provide some content around that.
Mhm.
When you're building your own, a lot of time that gets forgotten sometimes, especially in smaller businesses, right?
Mhm.
So the one of the great things about AI, no matter which approach you're taking, we can now build out excellent training that can actually be embedded in your application if you're building, or at least or
Mhm.
provided if it's something you're already you're sorry, provided built into the application if you're building, and then potentially hosted somewhere that you can get to if you're buying a solution. So you can build out that training that is specific for your industry and your product and your users, which should help significantly in the rollout and reducing that pain on your team.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Okay, so now let's look at the other path, which is using AI to build. This is the one I'm most excited about because I feel like this is the hottest topic right now, right? So AI is opening the door to people like me who are not a technologist but are slowly becoming one thanks to AI. AI is opening this door to build business tools that used to require massive platforms. So imagine generating reports directly from your data with AI instead of paying for a heavy reporting suite, or maybe creating a lightweight project tracker that matches your exact workflow instead of forcing your team into someone else's template, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on that?
So I think this is interesting. Let me give you an example of when this makes sense. So we're this is actually a client of ours. I'm not going to share their name, but they're in the process of figuring this out. And I think what they're going to end up doing is building their own solution. And here's why. So what they're looking for is a reporting solution. And they have a massive amount of data from their clients that they want to look at and aggregate across clients, but also in a client, be able to track real time of what's happening with that data, so they can do immediate reporting and results on things, but and alerts on what's happening. So they've already built a data warehouse basically to pull all this data. There's about I don't know, maybe 8 different data sources that this is all coming from, and they're pulling it into one data warehouse, which is perfect. Well, now it was interesting because we had a meeting this week, and I just brought up some tools. I'm like, hey, what if we actually built the process for querying this data for non-technical people to go find this data? So in an hour of our meeting, we got their developer set up and actually built a little app that they're going to take to the executive team to actually get approval for this. That is not at all complete, but it was pretty cool to be able to see a working, fairly nice. It's not their brand yet, but we literally put in 3 words for the brand that said make it look modern. So there's lots of tweaks that can happen to actually make it a full solution. And, I think the ability to do that with someone that is not very solid, even on the development side, to be able to put this together and have AI, work with AI in this process. One of the things I'll caution on when you're doing this, if you don't have a solid development team, a lot of times you get stuck with AI. And so one of the things I spend quite a bit of time doing right now is coaching people that are doing this, where they're building and they're using these AI tools and they're making tons of progress, but then they get stuck. What happens when you get stuck? You have to have some experts. Like, AI can help you figure out a lot of it, but sometimes you just can't get over the hump. And I've even had this issue. And sometimes what happened to me is I was using the wrong terminology for something I was trying to do. I just didn't understand what to call it. And so I was banging my head trying to get this to work, trying to get this to work. And then, and this is months, it was just kind of an idea I was playing with. Months later, I found I was talking on chat and just kind of doing some research. When I'm driving, I'm always on chat and chatting.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me the term for what this is called. And I'm like, holy cow, this just changed. So I went and put that in, and it wrote everything I needed to write, like, immediately. And it's just, I had the wrong terminology for how to talk about this. And for people that aren't familiar with the development process or as familiar, I think we get stuck in that quite often. So having somebody that you can go to is also very important in this process, to be able to make sure that you either have a team of developers that can figure this out, and you're just going to augment and speed this up with AI. So that's kind of a downside potentially with the build process, but it's possible. You just have to kind of keep pounding your head against the wall until you get through it sometimes with AI. But there's also a ton of improvements that have happened with this process. I got to say, we were just demoing something this morning that is very interesting, because not only can we fully define like what our architecture is when we're building something. And again, if you're not a developer, maybe you don't know what that should be to start with, but there's guidelines out there for different languages, different platforms. You can drop that into your rules basically. And then we can put in all the rules. Like I have very specific ways of how I want things formatted and how I want it to lay out and how I want to architect it. And we can put all that into the rules. And the great thing is I don't then have to put that in every chat with the AI. It can actually go pick up the right rules at the right time depending on what we're doing, because we have like front end rules and back end rules and data model rules and all these different. We probably have about 15 different rule files generally that kind of describe the architecture and rules around how every part of the application is going to get built. So that's really cool. The other piece is these products that you can use to do the building will actually manage their own tasks. So you'll give it a task and say, I need to create, this feature. And what we really like when we're doing this, another tip, if anybody's going to do this, is to use spec-driven development, basically. So you're going to define your spec first in very, very detail. And, I come from a world of business application development that you had some spec usually, but it was not crystal clear. And so, you develop and then you'd see it. And then the client says, let's do this instead. Well, it's very, very, very important to have a very clear spec when you go into this with AI. And if you do that, the AI generally gets it right with a clear spec. So you can just improve this whole process, which is really, really cool. And the tool's working, managing all the tasks. So it's not like sitting on chat and asking it, hey, can you do this? And you get back a result. It's, hey, I want to create this feature. Here's all the things. And it's going to ask me some questions about it. And it's going to go off and run for an hour and make hundreds and hundreds of AI calls, because it's going through, first of all, building all the task lists that it has to do. And then it's going through and executing each of those and figuring out. And then it comes back and says, hey, does this look good? And now you get to test that feature and work from there. So it's an exciting time from a development perspective. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, but that's really this ability to build for non-technical people to actually get involved in this process is a fantastic thing. With some development skills, you can actually build a lot of components, and it's not this tool for everything, but if you have an industry specific solution that if something doesn't exist out there that really matches what you need, I think there's a lot of cases where the time to build it and then be able to manage it and do it yourself is actually more valuable and more cost savings actually than doing the integrations for a product that doesn't quite fit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Forcing it. It's interesting. My two takeaways from hearing you describe that process of developing these tools yourself. One, using AI made it easier, which we all love the word easy. We all want an easy button in our life. But I also heard you use the word stuck several times, because no matter if you're buying or building, you're going to get stuck at some point. And that's probably my favorite use case of AI, is the ability to get unstuck. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
spinning on my project. There's always a way to ask a question. If you don't know what question to ask, you can say that. I don't even know what question to ask to start with, right?
Yeah.
So the ability to get unstuck, and then the ability to use um, tools like AI to develop things that were out of reach without some knowledge up front
Right.
is pretty exciting. So it makes it feel approachable, or at least I'm curious about it, because it was never even in my thought process before. But now it's like, oh, even this morning we were on a call and I'm like, wait, can I build a chatbot? Like, it feels like I can do anything now with my new AI superpower. So
You
um,
can.
it's pretty exciting time to be alive, that's for sure. Well, that
Well,
is very inspiring. Any last thoughts on building or buying before we hit the prompt of the week?
yeah. So I just have one more thing to add. I think this is very
Sure.
interesting. Um, you mentioned the process of getting employee buy-in as you're rolling out a solution. And I think, and maybe it's just because of my background experience of building solutions, but when you're rolling out a solution, the historically that has been a more reliable process than doing an internal build a lot of times. Um, I don't think that's still the case because you can actually fully build in all your tests and just the testing process into an AI-based process product. But in the process of doing this and defining your spec, I think you actually get more involvement from your teams, your business users, that can actually help in that rollout process. So even if you were going to go buy a product, I would highly recommend going through that process to define exactly all those integration points with the team and what those processes need to look like, because you'll get more buy-in as you're rolling something out, which will just smooth that rollout a lot.
And in theory, if you're bringing people to the table, you might build a better first draft of the product, and you don't have
Yep.
to always come back and fix it and improve it and refine it, because of those kind of front end conversations are probably more clear um, than they were in the past.
Right.
Yeah,
100%. Excellent. All right.
fantastic.
Prompt of the week time.
Okay, here we go. Now, this is really if you are, it's meant to be if you're unhappy with the tool you're currently using, or if you're looking for some sort of change, this is a good starting point for you. So here's our prompt of the week. Pick a business tool you're currently paying for, like a CRM or a reporting platform. Write down the 3 features your team actually uses. Then ask ChatGPT, how could I replicate these 3 features with a custom GPT or some sort of personal build out, and compare what you discover with what you're paying today. These custom GPTs are becoming more and more powerful as I learn how to write better instructions. So it does require a little bit of education and know-how. Like you said, you've got to have the right language and whatnot, but it's pretty spectacular what someone can build themselves to replace a current process.
I think as you're saying this, I think you can take this several steps further as well, right? Which is interesting because now one of the things you can do, because these AIs have been trained on all these products, you could even say, hey, let's say I want to build out a custom CRM for a very, very niche industry, right? And so I can use Salesforce as an example, but it's
Mhm.
not quite, I want to customize this 100% just to exactly what I need for this, whatever the industry is. And in the process of doing that, you could actually go to ChatGPT and say, hey, point it at some of the Salesforce documentation, or you don't even have to do that because it already knows a bunch of this anyway. And then say, but here's what I want to change, right? So I want a
Mhm.
CRM that's like Salesforce, and but I want it to be a niche product for this industry, and here's what's important in that industry. And so as we're thinking about like building out the spec, a lot of time we will actually work in ChatGPT, starting with prompts like this, to actually think about how we build out the spec. And
Mhm.
then we will take that spec and put it into our other development tools that are helping us actually code if we're going to code. But it can then also help you make this decision of should we buy or should we build, and what's the difference of doing that, right?
Hmm. I mean, even just asking those questions is such a powerful
Mhm.
impact on your your company and your decision making. Like just pausing for the cause and really asking a good question is so valuable. Um,
And
even
sharing it.
and
And
sharing it.
what
Yeah.
I would love to see, here's a tool that I don't know of anybody that's made this, but one of the challenges with ChatGPT is if I go create a chat and you go create a chat, I can't see, like I could share the history with you, but I can't really like chat together, right? It'd be
Hmm.
great to have a tool that we can all kind of chat together, especially as you're doing product development like this, or this decision of buy versus build, because you could all be asking different questions and contributing different things to it and see those results to help drive different decisions that you're going to make in this process, right? And
Yeah.
so it'd be great to all be in the same one to do that, because you want different people's perspective on what they want out of a tool. And then you want to ask those questions, see the result, and then that goes into the next question, which fits into someone else's way that they're using this tool, right?
I'm envisioning a conference room with a dozen different screens, and everybody's got their own screen, and it's fostering this really dynamic meeting space rather than just a boring conversation. I will say it's a smaller version of what you're dreaming about, but I have used voice in ChatGPT to have a group conversation, and it does really well with picking up on everyone's voices and responding. So that does work pretty well. Now you're only going to get a single response, so it's not the multiple responses you're looking for, but it does pretty well in a group setting.
That's fascinating. Well, we have to use that in something going forward and try it.
Yeah,
Love it.
we do that in our classes as one of our voice demos. We kind of play some games and have everybody else interject. And it's pretty good about recognizing when it should speak and when it shouldn't,
Yeah.
because we'll say, we just want to have some discussion about this, and it'll just listen in, and then I'll say, okay, now we're ready to answer, and it'll pop up. But we'll have
Interesting.
been listening. So
Well,
it's pretty
there's your prompt
powerful.
of the week.
There you go. There you go.
I love it.
It is something that I really encourage people to do. I feel like right now people are using these AI products in isolation, and I'm always encouraging them to use it in a collaborative setting with others as a way to kind of add another teammate to the discussion. So someday we'll get everybody using it. Well, thank you so much. This was really, really pertinent to what's happening right now. I'm getting so many emails of try this, do this, use this. And but at the same time, I feel empowered to build out some of my own workflows. So exciting time. Thank you for your insights on this. That's a wrap on buy versus build. So if you're weighing whether to buy a platform or build your own AI-driven alternative, we'd love to help. So connect with us at modelmind.ai, or feel free to email us at hello@modelmind.ai.
Fantastic. I think I missed a point that I think is really critical. I'm just going to throw it in here. So
Sure.
if these people that are contacting you about, every little product that's AI based that is out there, there are so many things that you can use, Copilot or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever for, that you don't need to buy another $50, $100 a month product when you're already pay for your AI product, and that can do many of these other things. So there's lots of cases when you don't even need a tool. You can just use the AI tool for some of these AI kind of things. So don't be too hasty to go buy a tool that does content writing for you when you could just build your own. Like, that's a simple process to build out. Or there's lots of other things like that, right? That don't go buy the tool when you can do that yourself just with knowing how to use the tool. So that's where, we offer all these training classes to help people know how to use it so you can actually do that very quickly, very efficiently. So yeah, we're not trying to answer the question buy versus build. It is really a decision in every particular situation, but it is a decision now, because this was never really an option in the past. It was usually way too expensive to build. And so that has changed, and that is changing. And I think it's going to continue to get faster and better to build your own thing. I think there's a mindset out there in the industry that you're not going to buy any software packages at some point in the future, and you're just going to tell the AI what you need, and it's going to build your custom solution for every person and every product you need, which is exciting. And we're on this path, and it's actually, in some cases, that's already happening. So probably a bad time to be a software developer, but it's very interesting as to what you can do. So.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the conversation, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being part of the conversation with Model Mind AI. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and stay curious.